Alright guys, pardon the scruff, but today we're going to investigate why my car's front left wheel sinks about an hour after you park it. Looks like an Airmatic air bladder failure, I'm guessing, but we'll do some debug today with the fancy computer and try to figure that out. Alright, so we've got two fault codes, critical vehicle level front left and critical vehicle level front right. And the car is definitely right, because that is way too low. For comparison, here's the rear wheel. Looking at the level sensors, they make sense. The left one's pretty low, -3 inches, and the right one's also slightly low, but not nearly as bad. So it looks like the level sensors themselves aren't the issue. Started the car briefly, and the vehicle height is corrected. And you can hear the compressor in there going, so it's working. Looks like the vehicle ride level's back up to normal though, so that's good. Alright, let's see how long it takes to sync once I shut down the car. The two quick drops you see in the beginning are the car auto-leveling when you lock it, and then after those two initial drops it starts to slowly sink down. This time lapse is taken over the course of about 15 minutes. Alright, so after about 10-15 minutes the car's sagging quite a lot on this side. Let's take it for a little look-see. If we go back here, it's clearly angled towards the left, which looks pretty bad. And then on the right side, the tire's pretty much good. Yeah. So now what should happen now is the central reservoir still has air pressure, hypothetically, and when I unlock the car, the central reservoir should inflate this air strut because it sees that the level is so low. So I'm gonna go unlock the car and maybe turn on the ignition and see what happens. And nothing happens. Alright, so I started up the car for about 30 seconds. That was enough to correct the level. Now it's locked, so it should just be sitting, and I'm gonna put some soapy water over the valve just to make sure that this isn't what's leaking. Alright. Alright, so I'm gonna say it's not that. So right down here, there's a residual pressure relief valve, and that stops air from coming out of the shock whenever the air pressure in the supply line drops below 4 or 5 bar. So it looks like that valve's not leaking, which indicates it's probably the air bladder itself. One other thing that happened is a friend pulled this out of the window. He's kind of destructive. He was just sitting in the back seat and he said, "What's this?" And next thing I know, he's holding a piece of my interior trim in his hand. It looks like this just kind of snaps in between the glass window and the window blind though. So hopefully that's just an easy fix. Alright, all set. Alright, so a $5 liquid transfer pump from Harbor Freight. And we can kind of see that is some old brake fluid. That's probably 8-year-old brake fluid, I'm guessing. Alright, time to flush this out. Wow, that moves a lot. I really hope that's normal. So a few hours after I did all that maintenance on the car, I took it to the mall, and halfway back, I was driving on the highway and I got that red alarm on the dashboard, vehicle level 2 low, stop. And I've always gotten that before when I started up the car, because the air suspension leaks, air bleeds out of the front left wheel and it sags, and then when I start up the car, the compressor kicks in and it pumps up that wheel again, so it's been fine. But this was the first time I've gotten it while I was driving down the road and the compressor was on and reinflating it, which meant the compressor probably couldn't keep up with the leak, which is a first, which would probably indicate to me that it's getting worse. So anyways, got that red alarm, and then a few seconds later I got a new yellow alarm saying Airmatic fault, visit workshop, that whole thing. So I nursed the car back home, parked it, got out, and you could see that the wheel was fully collapsed, the full 3 inches down. So I jacked the car up, removed the wheel, took a look at it, and everything looked fine visually. There was no sign of damage. The dust boot was still fully connected to the shock. That hadn't worked its way free. So I put the wheel back on, restarted the car, and the car reinflated the wheel again. Looking through the scanner codes, it looks like the compressor couldn't inflate the shock enough, so it assumed that the air bladder had blown completely, and the car stopped sending air to that wheel, which is why it didn't reinflate while I was driving. And then when I restarted the car, it tried to inflate the shock again, and it worked. So I drove around for a bit. It's drivable, but not trustworthy. I suppose this indicates that the leak is getting worse and it needs to be replaced soon. So I'm going to go find a replacement strut or shock online, maybe even air bladder if I can get away with just replacing that. And the next video will be me replacing an Airmatic strut, so that'll be fun. I suppose this also explains why I got such a good deal on the car. The previous owner, the guy who sold it to me, was looking to sell it quickly, and he had a price very low, well below market value. And I suppose he'd been driving it, saw these Airmatic alarms, got freaked out of the potential cost, and then just opted to sell the car quickly. And that's where I come in. On the whole, I bought it well below value, and if I can get away with just replacing a $700–800 strut, that'd still be a pretty good deal. I guess when it's all said and done, we'll see if I'm a winner or a loser when it comes to this purchase. So check me out in the next video. I should be getting my hands dirty replacing an Airmatic strut.